Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome joining us today. Thank you so much. Happy Global Entrepreneurship Week. My name is Maria Tranquilli, and I'm a program manager at Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. The Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit dedicated to enabling entrepreneurs from all over the world to realize their maximum potentials and grow. None of what we are doing could be possible without all of the amazing support from our partners in this movement. We have worked closely with Ravi Gundlapalli and his team at Mentor Cloud, who we will meet later in this discussion, in activating the platform we are using to activate your account and schedule free mentoring sessions. We are forever grateful for the support we have received from our partners in the movement. Hello Alice, Techstars, A Seat at the Table, Vets in Tech, Association of Military Spouse Entrepreneurs, Association of Women's Business Centers, City Light, Sista Circle, ESO Ventures, Voya, Alignable, and Act One Group. If you are interested in joining our coalition, please sign up on the Mentor Makers page and post it in the chat box for your convenience. The Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center would also like to take this moment to thank our annual sponsors, including Nasdaq, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, BPM, NZTE, and Microsoft for Startups. We are humbled by their contributions. Without further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special keynote guest, Jason Feifer and Mario Armstrong. Jason Feifer is the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine and the host of 3 podcasts: Problem Solvers, about entrepreneurs solving unexpected problems in business; Pessimist's Archive, about how to find opportunity and change; and Hush Money, about the ways money messes with our lives. Jason has worked across many media brands and mediums. He has been the editor of Fast Company, Men's Health, Maxim, and Boston. He's also written about business and technology for The Washington Post, New York Times, Slate, New York Magazine, and others. Jason will be joining us in company with 2-time Emmy Award-winning entrepreneur, Mario Armstrong. You've probably seen Mario on TV via NBC's Today Show, CNN, NPR, and more. Or you've watched him on Steve Harvey, Inside Edition, Dr. Oz, Fuse, and other popular talk shows or news programs. Mario is the host of a webinar television series called Never Settle that provides the advice and tools to help you hustle mindfully to pursue your passions. Mario focuses on positivity, motivation, and tactical advice to inspire people to take action, pursuing their personal and professional goals, dreams, and passions. He's an entrepreneur, brand influencer, and a public speaker listed with Damon John Shark Group Speaking Division. His newly daily podcast entitled Wake Up and Level Up has become recently a top 200 podcast on iTunes self-help charts and is in the top 10% of podcasts across the country. Jason and Mario, over to you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much, Maria, for that great introduction. Mario, great to see you.
Good to see you too, Jason. How are you?
I'm well. So I'm excited for this conversation because this is such a valuable subject, particularly it's a valuable subject no matter what's going on in whatever year we're talking. But of course, this year, a year in which people have felt upended, in which they have not known what the next step is. I feel like talking about mentorship, which is really talking about finding ways to band together, to share information, to find guidance from others is so valuable. Mario, I want to start with the most basic question here because I feel like the word mentor can mean so many things to so many different people. How do you even define what a mentor is?
Wow, that's a really tough question because you're right. It's such a wide varying definition. I would say for me, it probably comes down to a couple of things. Mentorship to me is the ability to listen, teach, and advise with empathy. In other words, really having the ability to understand someone else's situation makes you a better mentor if you can really have that emotional, that EQ, if you can really have that level of emotional connection or empathy. And I think then it's, the idea of being able to find the right matchmaking. So if you have the empathy, and so you're able to listen. A lot of mentors want to give advice. And I think the best mentors, I think, listen more than they actually give. And they ask open-ended questions to try to give really pointed, specific advice. But I think in order to have a great mentor, and I know this is going longer than your definition, but to me, it's kind of a combination of having someone that is experienced, knowledgeable, with empathy, and the ability to really listen to you to try to advise you in the best way possible.
That's a great definition. And by the way, I want to remind folks, anybody who's watching, feel free at any time, if you've got a question, drop it into the chat. We're going to be watching that, and we're going to be integrating that stuff into our conversation. Mario, I want to throw a theory at you and see what you think. This is how I've come to think of mentors. I think that a challenge that we have in the entrepreneurial community is that we've started to use the word mentor sometimes as a job description, like as a very specific thing that somebody's doing, to the point where people go around looking for somebody who fits that job description. I don't know if this has happened to you, but it's happened to me many times, where at pre-pandemic times, when we were able to go out and speak to audiences in person, and afterwards, inevitably, somebody would come up to me and they would ask me very directly, total stranger, they would say, "Can you be my mentor?" And you know, the problem is that the answer to that, I'm sorry to say, is no. I don't know you. I don't know what you need. I don't have that kind of time. And what I came to realize after a number of people were asking me that is that I think that we need to broaden our definition of mentor so that it isn't necessarily it's not Mr. Miyagi, right? It's not one person who just provides you the skills and the knowledge as you need it. They're with you along the way. If you can find that person, amazing. But you can also just have a million little versions of that where nobody's ever called a mentor, but they're fulfilling that role. What do you think?
Yeah. You know, I love this theory. I'm going to push back just a little bit because, and I think this is a great discussion because we are really trying to help people understand how to actually make that question. That's what you're really getting to, is like, how do you approach someone, or how do you? So I have a couple of thoughts on that. One is that I always say you should, anytime there's a big ask that you want to make, you should ask in threes. It's a formula that's worked for me over the years really well. What that means is I have 3 different asks of varying degrees of importance to me, but also of effort to the person I'm asking it of. So there's the low-hanging fruit. Can I talk to you for 15 minutes? Okay, maybe that's a really easy one. Then there's the, can we grab a lunch for an hour? That might be a little bit more, effort, right? And then there's the, hey, can I shadow you for the day, or can you be my mentor for a month, or whatever it may be? And so that's your dream ask. So it's like low ask, middle ask, dream ask. When people have actually used my own formula on me, I find that I say yes to 2 things more than no. I say yes to at least one, but more than likely I'll say yes to 2 things. And so what I'm getting at is, number one, when you are looking for a quote unquote mentor, and I do love this idea of like not looking for the job description. And I love your idea of looking for multiple people to play multiple roles. In other words, create a team. Stop looking for Mr. Miyagi, like you mentioned, and look for your squad. And I think when you start to really look at your weaknesses, then you can really identify who really needs to make up your squad. Oh, you're great at marketing, but you stink at numbers. Okay, you better find some CFO types that are in your business or in that industry that can really give you some knowledge. And so I think if you are more strategic and more specific with not only who you're looking for, because you know who you need to round out your weaknesses, but also specifically, what are you asking of us? If you said to Jason on the street, hey, can I get 11 minutes of your time to ask you these 4 pointed questions, he might just say, send them to me in an email. I can't talk to you on the phone, but I can maybe answer that in an email at a later date or something. You never know. But when you say, can you be my mentor? We all push back. Even if we want to help, we push back because we know that means that probably comes with a bigger expectation that you have in mind.
That's right. That's right. I think that's really great. And totally, I love the idea of the team, of the tribe of mentors. That's exactly what I think that I have. I have a bunch of people in my life who I have never called a mentor, but who I think of as somebody who I can turn to for specific things. And I've had a lot of people, and I'm sure you've had this too, people who have said to me that they consider me a mentor. And I didn't think of that at all. What I thought is that we I thought that we just had a good relationship, right?
Yeah.
A good relationship in which I was invested in you and you were invested in me. And they had come to think of me as a mentor, but I hadn't thought of myself as a mentor. And I think that that's great mentorship.
Yeah,
And
no, it's true.
you know, and what you're describing there, I think, is really valuable, because what you're describing with those 3 questions is an on-ramp, right? Where you're giving the relationship an opportunity to grow at an organic pace. There's nothing, right? Coming up and saying, will you be my mentor, is like coming up to me as a total stranger and saying, will you marry me? And the answer is no, right? The answer is no. But a marriage is just a very, very heavy form of a relationship. And you can do that. Why don't you start down there at the bottom with some back and forth, right? Follow me on Instagram or something and respond to my stuff, and we grow from there. And that, I think, is a really good way to develop a mentorship relationship. Now that's coming from the side of the person who's looking for a mentor.
That's right.
Let's flip it around though and talk about being a mentor. You know, we all, I think, want to give back. We all want to be able to share our knowledge. Where do you even begin?
Man, I think it's true. Number one, first and foremost, there are so many people that have value, that have gifts, that have talents. And just because you haven't been looked at in your own eyes as a mentor does not mean that you don't have mentorship capabilities. So we need to like open this field up, because I think there are so many talented and gifted people watching this right now that think that they're still trying to make it or still trying to get there. And the idea of like you getting to a destination, first off, it's never going to happen if you're an ambitious person. It always evolves. So let's just know that. But secondly, I think we're missing out on a lot of people that could be contributing in meaningful ways because they are discounting their distance traveled. When you talk about entrepreneurship and you go after VC funding, or if you're trying to get investment, one of the terms that comes up is distance traveled. In other words, you may have a product or a project that you're trying to get funded, and someone may say, well, how long have you been doing this? And you say, well, I've only been doing this for 12 months, but here's the distance I've traveled. Oh, these are the other projects I've been on that are close and kind of connected to this. And I think people disregard too often their distance traveled. So I think as a mentor looking to give back, number one, don't disqualify your expertise, even if you don't think you are a full expert yet. Yes. You are more than an expert than someone else who's trying to be where you are. So know that. Number two, I think looking at organizations like, I mean, this is incredible that Nasdaq actually does this and really looks actively to connect and matchmake mentors with entrepreneurs. Like, this is a major program. So do your research and reach out. And then I would say, clearly you can look at your local boys and girls clubs. You can look at, there are mentor organizations. I Mentor is one that I work with. I Mentor is another one that helps with college kids. And so there are a lot of different ways. The point is, I think, don't discredit yourself, get active and just start, take a step, and you'll find it's so rewarding, by the way. It just feels, it's so good to know that you actually can be of some help to another human being in a way that can really impact their life.
That's absolutely right. And I think what you just said there about not discounting your own journey and wherever you are is so important, because everything, I don't know that people understand this, but it doesn't matter what level you are working at, you basically feel exactly the same. You feel like you haven't accomplished everything that you set out to accomplish, right? You forget about everything that you already did to get to where you are. It does not matter. I feel exactly the same today as I did 15 years ago when I was just starting out in magazines.
Isn't that something?
It doesn't change. And I have heard that. I have heard, because I and you, we have the privilege of talking to a lot of very accomplished people. I have talked to people at the top of their game, major celebrities, names everybody would know. And they're all telling me the same thing, which is that it doesn't feel any different. They still feel like they're the person who's trying, the person who isn't there yet. And so it doesn't matter where you are. You're always going to feel that. Put that to the side and recognize that you have some value to somebody else. You just do. And so here's something that I've done lot is I have tried to feed off of what other people give. So there have been, for example, young editors at magazines where I've worked, where I've been senior to them at whatever level. And some of them are busting their butts and they want to learn and they're coming to me to learn. And then others, not as much. And I have found that the way that I feel like I can both build a great team around me and work with people, but also be a mentor, even if it's not with that label mentor, is to recognize the people who are putting it out and then give it back to them. Right. So if you are trying hard, I'm trying hard with you and I'm giving it. And we have developed great relationships that have now spanned more than a decade, where I am helping somebody because I saw that they really wanted it and I want to give it to them. And I never, by contrast, want to give it to somebody who I don't think is going to do right with knowledge and information. Somebody who's not going to work hard, right?
Keep going.
No, go. What are you gonna say?
You're just making me think, like, this is so good, because it even reminds me, like, this comment that came in from Damon Green. He says, I truly believe most great mentorships happen organically. That's a point that you were making. I've been working in the fashion and entertainment industry for over 20 years and have mentored hundreds without even being aware of it. Perfect. Right. So like, but what we can't do is we can't mentor what we can't see. Let me say that one more time. We can't mentor what we can't see. So a lot of times what we need you to do is show up. We need to see you actually putting work out there. I have actively reached out to people that I've seen putting work out there, and I'm like, oh man, let me see if they're open to some advice. I don't have all the answers, but let me just see, because this is in my field. I know a lot in the space. I see what they're doing. They're really working hard at it. They remind, what it comes down to? They remind me of me. When you bump into people that remind you of you, you are so willing to try to help out and help them, but you can't if you can't see them. So this goes back to putting out the work, building a portfolio, building your personal brand, talking about things that you're working on, document. So many people want to wait to become the expert to show what they're working on, as opposed to showing the process of becoming an expert. And so I think a lot of people are missing the opportunity to show who they are and be more, to me, one of my trends for 2021 is that vulnerability is the new currency. And I just think that the more you can be vulnerable, the more you can be courageous with that vulnerability and transparency, the more you start to shed all of the things that can limit you, or the limiting beliefs that can kind of hold you down, because you start to find other tribes that have similar issues or challenges that you were once really kind of hiding or ducking away from. And so I just think that in that same space, like, don't be shy to promote yourself with the work that you're doing, as long as you're doing actual work.
Yeah. And the intentionality of it is so important.
I love that
what
word.
You were just saying there reminds me of something. I was just having a conversation with my friend Jordan Harbinger of the Jordan Harbinger Show, is a big popular podcast. And he was telling me that he makes it a point once a week to solve some problem for somebody else that doesn't help him at all. Right.
Wow.
And I've heard this from other people. I remember I was talking to Diane von Furstenberg after an event that we were both speaking at. She said the same thing. Once a week, find somebody to help in a way that doesn't help me at all. And once you start thinking about that, and then you start doing it, what you're going to start doing is you're going to start activating all the relationships around you, and you're going to start creating an ecosystem of people around you, because you're going to take this person and connect them with this person, and they're going to have their own little ecosystem. And now you're a part of that, and that grows in ways that you can't even imagine. And this is a way in which being some kind of mentor, and again, it doesn't have to be Mr. Miyagi style where you're like with somebody every step of the way, but you're there when they need you, or they just know what your value is to them. And that's it. If you can establish that with somebody, that people know what your value is to them, is so now you've created something that's lasting and that you can constantly fulfill, and that doesn't take a lot of time, because we don't have a lot of time.
One of my hacks that I've been doing within the last, it started in COVID, and then I just decided to keep it going, is that I have put on my calendar, because for me, if I don't schedule something on my calendar, it just, and I like to leave room for spontaneity, because I'm a very creative person, obviously. Got a lot of stuff around me to kind of stimulate that creativity. But the point I'm making is that, I have 15 minutes that I put in the calendar 3 days out of the week. And in those 15 minutes, what I do is I jump into Instagram. Like Instagram is like where I do a lot of my content. I do a lot of free mentorship, by the way. Anybody want free mentorship? Like, I'm not going to try to put you into a funnel or anything like that. Like, if you just really have questions and you need someone to answer them and you want to give me a shot, just hit me up at Mario Armstrong on Instagram. I really do use that as a place of educational content. I give away tons of free value just because I want to help and give back. So what I do is I go in the DM and I start just randomly picking followers. And I will DM them an audio message. And I'll just say, hey, just want to say thanks for being a part of the Never Settle family on Instagram. Just wanted to let you know, if anyone hasn't told you today, you can kill it. It's all about the energy you want to bring to the day, like some positive or some inspiring thing. Or if I know a little bit more about them, I might actually say, hey, I looked at your bio, or hey, I saw that post. Congratulations on that thing you just did. And so I'll spend like 15 minutes and I'll get to, maybe 10 people within that 15 minutes. But I do that like 3 days a week. So I'm touching like close to 20 to 30 people in a week just by sending them a quick, and not just a chat, like a text, like an act. I want them to feel my energy. I want them to hear my voice. I want them to feel that sincerity that someone is actually thinking about them for. I don't want anything in return. I'm just letting you know. That's it.
I love that so much. I mean, I haven't done that. I should start doing that because people would be just so surprised. What? Are you reaching out to me?
It's true.
But what I do is I make sure that I respond to every single person who reaches out. And so I always hear people send me a DM and I'll respond. And you know what? I'll respond the way that they send it. So if they send me an audio message, I tend to send an audio message back. Occasionally they send me a video message. I'll send a video message back. And then the thing I hear back after that is, oh my God, I didn't expect to hear from you.
Exactly.
It's funny, but that's an insight. That's an insight right there, right?
It is.
People are reaching out without the expectation of hearing back, which means that delivering value to people, it actually doesn't take much. It doesn't take much.
No.
Like if you reach out and you offer, you are providing so much value already. Don't think that you don't have the value, because you do. Literally engaging with people is value, more value than they were expecting, which is amazing. Mario, somebody had asked in the chat, going back to something that you had said a minute ago about vulnerability. Vulnerability is so important now and especially going forward. And I wanted to go back to that and ask you how you're doing that, what your advice is to people to be vulnerable and be vulnerable in a way that is, beneficial for themselves and those around them.
Yeah, and this is a very sensitive issue because everybody has to come at this at their level of comfortability. So I am not the be all end all. So I'm going to try to guide you the best I can, but it's up to you how you feel comfortable. I do believe fully 100%, because I'm a very vulnerable and transparent person, and I've seen how that's changed my life in the opportunities I get, but also in the type of energy that I put out that now comes back in terms of support, not just financially, but just actual, community support and mental health support and things of that nature. So the key is to take a very small step into something that is uncomfortable for you. This is very important. When I say small, I mean excruciatingly small. So if you don't like to speak in front of an audience about the fact that maybe you had some type of rough challenge in your upbringing, but that rough challenge in your upbringing has actually shaped the determination that drives you. That is a powerful message to send in the narrative of who you are. Now I understand more of what is pushing you than anything. And that's an emotion. That's not a paycheck. So that's not just going to go away when money comes or doesn't come. So that tells me a lot about your perseverance, your ability to be resilient, your ability to get back up. So, but how do you talk about abuse if you're not comfortable talking about that? So you have to, this is why I'm not a therapist. And this is why, sometimes you need to go and seek that professional help. All I'm saying is find ways, whether that's the next step could be go get some professional help to figure out what are the most appropriate ways, guided from someone that does that for a living, to help you do that. That might be the first step. The other step could just be thinking about what happened to you in high school. I used to get bullied a lot, but pretty much all of us probably did at some point in our lives. But I got bullied a lot. I was thin. I ran my mouth a lot, obviously, but I was competitive. But I was a really small guy, had curly hair. I would get teased a lot. My name was Mario, so it was always called Maria. And then I was called Super Mario Brothers, and then it was Luigi. So I was always getting like hit on because they thought I was like a mushroom. It was always something with me. And I've had to figure out that trying to put on somebody else's shoes to try to how could I use being bullied to help me be more transparent and be a better human? And so what I decided was I'm going to leverage what was once being bullied against me as now my superpower. So people used to pick and tease on me for how I look and my curly hair. Well, now I'm going to lean in more into my curly hair. Now I'm going to lean in more into my look. If that's the unique thing that seemed to rub everybody wrong so much, that must be something so unique to me that's catalyzing something different in somebody else that's working in my favor, but I've been running away from it. So often we run away from the very thing that really could be our superpower is the point. So start very small. Get professional help, and maybe that's the best way to get some guidance, but do something that's uncomfortable in small steps, and you will start to be more comfortable being vulnerable.
I think that's really wonderful advice. And it reminds me of something that I had noticed as people tell their own stories to me, because I'm in the position of of hearing people's stories. I either go interview them
That's
or
right.
boy, you wouldn't believe the number of people who just come to my inbox and start telling me their stories.
That's right.
And what I'm seeing is, all right, so, Mario, you were just talking about how to contextualize your own experiences in a way that people are going to understand, that's going to make sense, and in a way in which the bad stuff that happened to you is not going to seem like a setback, but is actually going to seem like something that is worth telling other people because it's part of your journey and it's part of telling people how resilient you are. And it makes me think, I realized, there's only one story in the world, and that story is the hero's journey. Right? One story. Every book, every movie, everything you've ever read, that is one story. And that story has 3 parts to it. Part 1, I set out to do something. Part 2, I had a setback. Part 3, I overcame.
That's right.
Every single movie you've ever seen, right? One story. That's it. It's the only story we tell. And the craziest thing about it is that when we tell our own story, we tend to want to skip part 2. We tend to want to do part 1 and part 3. I set out to do something, I accomplished that thing. And I'll tell you what, that's the worst story in the world. That's the least interesting story in the world. And also, it's the story that I and anybody else who isn't you, the person telling the story, cannot relate to. Because I wasn't there at step 1, and maybe I didn't accomplish what you did at step 3. The only thing that we all actually relate to is part 2 of the story. That's it. We only all relate to part 2 of the story. And so when you leave out part 2 of the story, you've actually taken your story, you ripped out the part in which anybody else can connect with you, and then you just seem like you're bragging or hiding something. It's a terrible way to tell the story.
It is a horrible way. True.
So, but if you can figure out how to tell step 2, the setback, in a way that makes step 1 and step 3 make sense, so that you now are the hero of your story, you had this setback and you built something into yourself. It taught you something in the way that you just told that, a version of your story right now. That is the thing that connects people to you and opens you up to all sorts of connection. If you want to be a mentor, you don't go out and just tell 1 and 3, because 1 and 3 means that you're unrelatable. You're unapproachable, right? You're just some sort of super person. And I can't be mentored by a super person because I'm not a super person. But when you share part 2, now you're letting everybody else in.
Yeah, and I had to deal with this myself, to that point. I had to talk with my dad. I said, hey, Dad, look, I watched you as a kid, and you went after trying to create a record company, an artist management and music production company. And you wanted to build up R&B groups. You wanted to travel the world, and you did. You got to Japan and you got to Switzerland and a couple other places, but it never really broke in the US. It never really took off in the US the way it could have taken off. And, I remember that eviction notice on the apartment door. I remember being in a 2-bedroom apartment, sharing a bedroom with my brother, Sean. And I remember seeing that pink slip on the door. But I also remember being able at the age of, 10, 11 years old, understanding that's not a good sign. But then I also remember how you would still have me go out with you on Sundays and hop in the car if we after we jump started, hop in the car, and you would drive me around neighborhoods that you were envisioning that you wanted to move the family to, that you were going to get us out of this apartment life, and that we would just start driving on Sunday afternoons. So I said, hey, Dad, look, I need to talk about this. This stuff has shaped me. And I know it may seem like a low for you. You went bankrupt pursuing your dream. So I know that can be a heavy thing. Can I talk about this? Because it's going to allow me to teach people part of the story of my process of what's made me me, and the reason why I can get back up after being knocked down so many times, and why I'm so risk adverse. And I think this is important. Is that okay with you? And he was like, absolutely. It's fine. It's okay. You can do it. So, little things like that made it easier for me to tell part 2 of the story, so that I could really start to share with people what the process has really been like and what the pain has really been, so that it's really understandable, believable, and accessible.
It's a really, really important way in which I think we started this conversation talking about just mentorship, but where we've gotten to is an understanding that to be a great mentor, you have to really understand your own journey and your own value.
Wow, that's good.
The more that you can do that, the more that you can, one, recognize the value that you have to others, and then have access to the good and the bad. I mean, the thing that you just did, and the thing that you just described there is really about a permission for accessing the hard stuff and processing that and putting it into a place in which it's not just shameful or whatever, however you would maybe originally process it, but now it's a learning experience, it's perspective, it's value that you can then pass along to others.
Yep, it's true. Passing that value and understanding your value is a great segue to this question that just came in from Brooke. Brooke had asked suggestions as to how to take your talents and all of your ideas and come up with a package or packages and products paid for. I guess products, please tell us more about strategies.
Yeah, I saw that question too.
You did?
It's an interesting one because it's sort of taking something that we've been talking about, I think, which is recognizing what you're good at, what your value is to other people. When we're talking about mentorship, we're talking about this kind of abstract relationships thing. It can come from a million directions, but of course, Mario, you and I are both also in the business of providing value to people. And so I feel like what Brooke is asking almost is like, let's take what we're talking about here and then transition it into something that's intentional and structured, in which maybe we're not just doing it in relationship form, but we're also maybe doing it in a business form.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And both of us are entrepreneurs. We both have entrepreneurial pursuits. And we've been an independent entrepreneur for the past 10 years and building our business and building our company, 2 companies now, actually. So to answer that question, when I think about part 1 of this, I can really tackle suggestions as to how to take your talents and all of your ideas and come up with a package or packages. This is, as Wafa mentioned, business development, but I also think that it's actually a little bit deeper than just biz dev. When you're saying to me, you want to take your talents and your ideas and you want to package them, well, now we need to come up with so here's what I would advise you to do. Grab a sheet of paper right now. You're going to put 2 columns. You're going to split it right down the middle of the page. On the left-hand side of the page, you're going to write down all your talents. These are things that you're great at, things that you are good at, things that you have skills and experience in. And if you're not in the best headspace to get those answers, ask your friends, peers, or supporters around you. You'll be surprised as to what they think you're also great at that you may easily have overlooked. And that could be the thing that you should actually be doing, by the way. So anyway, you're going to write this all down on the left side of the paper. And then what you're going to do on the right side of the paper is you're going to think about companies or products that you would love to create. Well, normally I do this with 3 columns, but this is a whole other exercise. If you want to get this sheet, it's free. You can go to neversettle.tv/tools. It's a worksheet. All you got to do is give me the email and you get access to it. Neversettle.tv/tools. But basically it's a monetization formula that I put together that enables you to list out your talents, list out your ideas, but then also go through a structured list of different variables that you have to rate on a scale. And those variables can be, well, what resources do you have? What effort are you willing to put into this? And how much passion do you actually have for that particular thing? And then you add up these different columns, and at the end, it's going to give you a total score. And that score is going to actually tell you more than likely, this is the next thing that you should be working on, or this is the one product that you should try to start developing. So it's a different way of looking at product development, because I feel like unless you already know the product, which in this case, you want to take your talents and package them, tells me you may not know the product yet. So therefore, we still have some self-discovery that I think can happen. But if you want to do the shorthand version, write down your talents on the left side of the page. And then on the right side of the page, I want you to start looking at write down all the products that you would like to create Just anything that excites you, things that you buy, things that you think are wrong, things that you think you could fix, anything. And then what you do is you start to circle where you find overlap. So if you created, if you're great at yoga and you know that and one of the things that you would love to create is a better fitness class or a better fitness course or a better fitness product or a multivitamin or whatever it may be, then you're going to circle those two things because they kind of go together. They connect. So all I'm trying to do at this early stage is help you find better connections to see if there's better opportunities for you to create a product that makes more sense to your story and who you are.
Yeah, I think that speaks really well to this question that had come in. I think really just as you starting to go through all that from Selena, which was about how to recognize what you're good at when, we spend all our time heads down, working, dealing with problems. You don't really have time to pull the head out of the sand and say, what am I actually good at? And I feel like doing something like that, even if it's not exactly what Mario just suggested, although I think that was a really great process, the thinking there is really all about trying to pick apart the various elements of your experience and your work and your background so that you can start to see the patterns of what you're passionate about and what you're good at. And there are so many other ways to do that. I'll share just like, this is the simplest thing, but it felt like an absolute revelation to me when I figured it out. And that was
What's that?
That I realized, okay, so I started as editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur magazine, and I had no idea what my relationship was supposed to be to my audience because my background was as a magazine editor, which meant that I was just Lena, just like you said, I was head down in the text, and I was editing things and I was coming up with stories. And now not only am I overseeing a brand, but I represent something to people. And I didn't know what that was, and I didn't know how to service that. And so then I realized something as I was going to events and people were asking me all sorts of questions. I realized that when people ask you questions, and you don't have to be in the public spotlight to have people ask you questions, people ask you questions all the time. They ask you socially, they ask you at work, whatever the case is, whenever anybody is asking you a question, they are actually telling you what they think your value is to them, right? They're coming right out and they're saying, here's something that I think that you know that I need. That's what this question is.
Right.
This is an assumption that you know something. I'm telling you what I think that you know. And once you can start tracking that stuff and see how people are perceiving you and what the kind of white space is in the world that they think that you are filling, you can start to service it. And for me personally, what that was that I kept hearing over and over again, people were saying, what are the qualities of successful entrepreneurs? You see so many people. What is the pattern that you're seeing?
Yeah, right.
And I realized, my value to people is that they think that I am the center point of all of this knowledge and experience. And that I'm finding the trends and the habits.
You're the fly on the wall everywhere that they can't be,
You know what? That was liberating because I didn't feel like I was the guy who knew all the answers. But now you're telling me I don't have to be the guy who knows all the answers. I just have to be the guy who's talking to everybody and telling you what you're doing. That's it. Right.
That's
and
it.
then just coming up with a way to filter it. And I have built a great brand and business out of that original insight. The more that you're listening to people and just interacting with people and seeing what they think your value is, the more that you can just deliver that value back to them. It's the easiest trick in the world.
It's incredible. That's a great revelation and an insight. I hope a lot of people really heard what you just said. And often what you should do, and this is something that I find a lot of entrepreneurs don't do. And I get it. You're focused on product, you're focused on development and all these other things that are very important. But one thing that's absolutely critical is really recognizing the value that you bring. So you'll do market research in a heartbeat on a product that you have ready to put out there, but do you do market research on your own personal brand value that you have to offer out there? Probably not. When's the last time you've actually went on to Google, created a quick little form, did a little 5-question survey, sent it out to your social media following, sent it out to your people on LinkedIn, and just say, hey, what kind of value do you get from me? What would you like to see more from me? What are some of the things that I've done over the years that you've learned from me or that you've picked up from me? Like I do this twice a year. I do this semi-annually as a way to make sure that I am understanding what has been working for people, my customers, what has been working for them. And so I love that, we're bringing out this idea of how you can get to self-discovery, how you can identify these patterns, how you can uncover what your gifts are that you may not even think what your gifts are because you thought you had to be the expert in some other way, shape, and form. And people like, no, Jason, we love the fact that you have the access point. Just keep being that funnel and keep being that filter and keep teaching us in that way from what you're learning. We're not looking for you to have the answers. We're looking for you to get access to the answers and share that information with us with your perspective and your advice and your opinions, which is great.
Right. And, this is where we started on mentorship, and, we've drifted a little bit into product development, but I think that it's all still the same because it's really all about understanding what value you provide to others and then making sure you're providing it. And you can do that in so many different ways, whether or not it's in a personal relationship or it's a business relationship. It's all really about the same thing. And what you just said there about going out, talking to your audience, talking to people and understanding what you're providing to them, what you're doing well, what you're not doing well, you will discover that people are coming to you perhaps for reasons that you don't even know, which is what is so incredibly valuable. So I just went through this with my, to one of my podcasts. Right now it's called Pessimist's Archive. We're about to change it because I know it sounds pessimistic and it's not. And that was a problem. So we're getting rid of the name. We're changing the name. But for right now, it's called Pessimist's Archive. We haven't changed the name yet. And anyway, I always thought of it as a history show about why people resisted change. And then I hired a consultancy and they went out and they talked to our audience. And they came back and they said, it's not what people think. Like what you think this show is not what other people think this show is. What people come to this show for is to feel resilient about the future. They're afraid of the future. They're afraid of change. They want to feel more comfortable with change. And that's why they come to your show, which is crazy. And it helped me read every part of it, right? That helped me get through the name change idea. That has helped shape what I'm doing. And that's going to now direct a lot of the new social media that I'm going to be doing to connect with people, to drive them into the show, because now I understand how it fits into people's lives. And here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you're running a podcast or not. It doesn't matter what you have. You fit into people's lives in some way. And you may not know how.
And I'm going to take an active role on that. I see a chat here from Brooke who says she's teaching entrepreneurship online to at-risk 16 to 21-year-old students in 11 locations in Ohio. Amazing. I know she's got a question here about problem-based learning, PBL, and all that other stuff. Here's what I'm going to do, Brooke. If you DM me or reach out to me on Instagram at Mario Armstrong, I would love to be able to participate in some way, shape, or form. Bring me on as a guest. I would love to mentor the students for a session. I'd love to come in and, do something online. We got to make it, simple and effective. But if I can be useful, the reason why I'm doing this is because I care about at-risk 16 to 21-year-old students in 11 locations. I want them to be able to know that there's someone else that cares about them, that probably looks like them or dresses like them. It's got sneakers and kicks like them, and that you can still be successful and still be a sneakerhead. And like, by the way, these just aren't sneakers. These are actual tangior affirmations, but that's a whole other.
We're going to talk about that in a second.
Oh, okay, cool. But I just wanted to put that out there. So Brooke, if I could be of any help for you, just DM me on Instagram and reach out to me. We'll make it happen.
Hats off to you, Mario. That was awesome. And also a great reminder to everybody. I think that you can proactively find opportunities in which you can be valuable to people, right? It doesn't always have to be a question of waiting for somebody to come to you or trying to find some serendipitous experience, right? If you see an opportunity, go to it. And you never know where that's going to go next. Because that's the amazing thing about this is that, we're talking about mentorship, and mentorship should be about community and giving and all that stuff. But, you never know how once you put something out into the world, it's going to come back to you in some way. So you could go, Mario, and go talk to Brooke's group. And then some of those kids are then going to watch your show, and then they're going to tell their friends, and who knows what's going to happen. And then one of their friends is going to sign up for something. And it's just, the more that you put yourself out there, the more you're building those connections. So before we end, because we're coming towards the end here, I definitely wanted to get to those shoes. That was on my agenda because we spent this entire time in one way or another talking about providing value to others or others providing value to you. But Mario, people don't know this, but those shoes in the background are really an example of providing value to yourself. So
Yeah.
talk to me about the affirmations in those shoes.
Yeah, I'm big on teaching people how to do affirmations. And what I created for myself was a reward system to try to keep me excited, passionate, but also be resilient to deal with the tough challenges that come up. So I call these tangible affirmations. It was started off as an excuse for me to buy sneakers because I am a sneakerhead. I like my style. I have eyewear that I love, watches and shoes. Like that's kind of just my thing. So I started saying to myself, well, if I'm going to buy sneakers anyway, I may as well attach them to future goals that I would like to achieve. So what that means is I cannot wear these shoes until I either launch a passive income product or I launch the book. I cannot wear these shoes until the Never Settle show new season kicks off. And so what this does every single day when I come in here and get dressed, it is a visual reminder of the goal that I'm seeking. It keeps me focused on what my energy is supposed to be put towards, even if I'm working on small steps every single day. But then when I hit that reward, when I actually get there, it could take me 6 months, a year. These pair of shoes over here took me 2 years to wear. 2 years, because these were the first pair of shoes that I could wear on the first episode on season 1, which happened a few years ago. But it took me 2 years to get to wear these shoes because people were turning us down. I was being told no left and right. By the way, I was already on the Today Show. I was already doing great stuff. And they were still like, nah, we don't like this show idea. We don't think it's going to work. So we had to figure out how to do it ourselves. And so it took a long time to get to wear these. But now I can look at these as a reminder of how far I've come, and that when I'm down, oh yeah, I remember being down. It's okay. This is part of the process. I've been here before. Look at those silver shoes. We can make this happen again. Get back up, Mario. Let's go.
And it's so important to have those reminders that you've done it before. Something that I see all the time in entrepreneurs is that they're afraid of some kind of massive change where they feel like they're going to have to start over, right? Whatever it is. Built the company, going to leave the company and start something else. Built the company, sold the company, built the company, failed. They got to do whatever it is. You did something and now you got to start over. And you're like, well, what if the first time was just a fluke? What if the first time was some random stroke of luck? Maybe it contained every single thing that I'm good at and I don't know how to do anything else. And I think having those shoes, having some other reminder that no, like it wasn't a fluke. It was because you're good at this. And because you have some kind of raw talent that maybe you haven't even identified exactly what it is, but when you apply it to things, something grows. And having that reminder really can embolden you to go out and do that next thing, because we are all going to have to start over so many times in our career.
So many.
And the only way to keep going is to be able to keep in your head that the thing that happened before was not dumb luck.
Right. And how do you do that tangibly? Like that was the problem for me, is like, I got to rely on my own memories. My brain is set up. Our brains are set up to protect us from discomfort. Like that is its job. Oh, you're getting ready to go speak on that stage in front of people. Remember, you're afraid to speak in front of an audience. So your mouth is going to get dry. Your hands are going to get sweaty. Your underarms are going to start sweating. You start shivering or getting a little bit nervous, but you're not going to die when you go out there. But our brains still act like we're in the caveman era, that if we step out of the cave, we might actually die. And so knowing that, and knowing that I'm not the best at holding on to these memories, I was like, I need something tangible to remind me of what we have been able to do, so that it fuels me to keep going. And I really believe that you really touched on something that I didn't even think about this, that so many entrepreneurs probably don't have some kind of physical or tangible way. Like I would print out, when we went flat broke, I printed out, I would show the picture, but we're running out of time. When we were flat broke and Nicole and I were trying to build our business, and we were like, oh my God, this is really getting bad. Like my mother-in-law was buying our groceries. I took a screenshot of the bank account. Like we had 4 bank accounts because we were doing well before. All of a sudden, everything was changing. And so now everything was in the red, except for one account that had like $17 in it. I took a screenshot of that and I framed it. It's up on the wall. And that was a moment for me, a physical thing to remind me of our lowest low. And I know other people have had lower lows, but my point is, like, I just love this idea for entrepreneurs out there to start thinking more tangibly about some of the things that you can use as reminders or rewards-based systems that can help you stay resilient and stay more in the positive of the what if and not in the negative what if.
Yeah, that reminds me. I love that, and I've seen that bank account statement of yours before, because you post that online for everyone to see. So I've seen it, and it reminds me because we're both here we're both here on Zoom right now. About a month or so, I was talking to the founder and CEO of Zoom on
Is
Zoom,
that right?
which is pretty cool. And he was telling me that he had such a hard time. He used to work at WebEx. And then he was like, there's definitely a better system that can be built here, which if you've ever used WebEx, is true. And I hope WebEx isn't a sponsor of this program. And so he went out and he spent a lot of time trying to pitch investors, pitch partners on building this new thing. And everyone said, this will never work. Nobody needs this. Nobody needs this. And so Eric, the CEO, he put, I can't remember exactly what he put as his, as like the desktop background on his computer, but it was like, this won't work. Right, which is what he heard over and over again from investors. This won't work. This won't work. So he put that there so that he was always looking at it, so that it was always reminding him. Mario, we only have about 2 minutes left, and so I just want to bring it right back to mentors. Whether you are looking for a mentor or you want to do more as a mentor, what would you say is one tangible thing that somebody can do after turning off this program and going back to their lives? One tangible thing.
I would click on the link that's in the chat where they're saying, take a moment to sign up for free mentorship to support your business needs today. Like that it's too easy, folks. You're already in this chat. Hit that link, sign up. It's free mentorship. The second thing I would say is, if you want someone personal, if you want me, DM me on Instagram at Mario Armstrong and I will respond.
Yeah.
What about you? What about you?
And I'll say the same. DM me. I'm at Hey Feifer, HeyFeifer. I'll type that in there right now. But I'm just gonna say it's as easy as can be, which is put aside the idea, like we said in the beginning, of a mentor being a very specific job role, and instead just think, a mentor is either providing value or seeking value.
Correct.
In a small way from somebody. So how today can you drop a line to somebody and just check in with them? People love checking in. Just check in, say,
especially
hey,
now more than ever. More people are more accessible than ever before.
Absolutely. Anything I can do, anything I can do to help.
Well, they have a question here too. Yasmin says, what do you both most need support with? I'm curious to know what your quick answer would be to this.
Oh, what do I need support? Well, I'll tell you, I have been saying for years, Mario, I've probably said this to you 40 times. I've been saying for years, I need to get an assistant. And I was like, but no, I don't know.
Yes,
I don't
you
know
do.
if I got money. I don't know if I need somebody. And anyway, it has come. The time has come. And so I just yesterday had a call with a service called Squared Away, and I'm exploring getting an assistant. And that is going to get the help that you need. What do you need around you? Make it work, because it's going to change your life.
Yeah, I'm looking for a literary agent, because I really want to get a book out. So and thank you to your push and advice on that. So that's one. The second thing that would really be something that I would love to have some support with is probably the new season of the Never Settle show. So if anybody is in content, programming, production, editing, you're good at doing things in social media. If you can create narratives, tell stories, write things, produce research, any of that type of stuff in content, definitely holler at me.
Amazing. And Michelle in the comments says she's got an agent that she can intro you to. So there, look at that.
All right, let's get it going. And I know Michelle, that's awesome. That's great.
Mario, always a super pleasure chatting with you. Thank you to everybody. This has been so great. And I hope that we've inspired everyone here to go out and just create a little more value.
Yeah, me too. Ditto to what you just said. Nothing else. All I will say is this: if it's important enough for you to do it against all the odds, even if the odds are against you, folks. You're more powerful than you may think. And Jason and I love to read and write about your stories. So go make some stories happen for us.
Jason and Mario, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so grateful. And I love that you spoke about the balance of intrinsic motivation through mentorship and extrinsic motivation through goal setting. Really beautiful balance in conversation. We've had so many great comments here. Thank you so much. Everyone is saying how incredible and awesome this conversation has been.
That's great.
So on behalf of Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center and everyone in attendance today, thank you for joining us. And thank you for doing the work that you're doing across the nation to support entrepreneurs in this mentorship makers movement that we have going on. And for everyone here, if you haven't already, now is a great time to sign up with the link in the chat for free mentorship sessions from Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center in partnership with Mentor Cloud. Again, Jason and Mario, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Let's go, people. Let's go.
Amazing. And before introducing our next VIPs, we'd like to launch a poll because we are curious about whether you've received mentorship in the last 30 days. So I will launch that poll now. Have you received mentorship in the last 30 days?
Using computer, have you received mentorship in the last 30 days? Yeah.
Yes, I have. No, I have not. I got postponed and I just scheduled a session.
Oh, wait.
Hopefully we had someone on the line. Thank you for whoever was so interested in filling out this poll. Hopefully we have lots of people saying, I just scheduled a session. If you need to do so, we'll make sure to drop a link in the chat now.
Extension cord, like where are you plugging?
Wonderful. And I'll end this poll and share the results. Oh, we have some people that have and some people that have not. So if you are someone who has not received mentorship or is looking for additional mentorship, please go ahead and click on our link. Our partnership with Mentor Cloud and our Mentor Makers movement is an introduction to mentorship or a continuation of such so that you can receive all the mentorship that you need as an entrepreneur founder and otherwise. Thank you all so much. Dr. Ravi, I would love to formally introduce you to the audience here. Thank you so much for joining us today. So for everyone here, please welcome our partner and co-host, Dr. Ravi Gundlapalli. Dr. Ravi is the founder and CEO of Mentor Cloud, a cloud-based mentoring platform for people with enterprises, entrepreneurial networks, and professional associations to share and learn from each other. Dr. Ravi is a globally recognized thought leader and speaker on the topics of mentoring and entrepreneurship, and he is the author of The Art of Mentoring. For his work and vision, Dr. Ravi has been featured in Harvard Business Review, Forbes, Knowledge at Wharton, and also has been featured in 2 books. Prior to founding Mentor Cloud, Dr. Ravi led supply chain solutions for Boeing 787 Dreamliner, Raytheon, and Hitachi Global Storage. Dr. Ravi actively mentors and coaches entrepreneurs and professionals globally. He also serves as a mentor at the Founder Institute in Silicon Valley. Dr. Ravi's vision is to impact 100 million people with the power of mentorship. He's here to tell us more. Dr. Ravi, again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Maria, for those kind words. This is a dream come true, with a mission to impact 100 million people with the power of mentorship. How wonderful to start this event and listen to such an amazing conversation between Jason and Mario. So many brilliant insights. Their energy level came through even though this was a virtual event through Zoom. Their energy was just unbelievable on talking about both sides of mentorship, how to seek mentors and how to be a mentor, how to not forget that step 2 that we all went through, that step 2 of struggle, of difficult situation that we overcame, and the importance of showing our vulnerability to let other entrepreneurs share, become vulnerable in front of you so that you can actually help them grow in their entrepreneurial journeys. As the author of Art of Mentoring, and I have defined mentorship as something very simple. You heard Jason and Mario talk about this, right? Having mentors means actually being in the mind space of good people. Who are the people who are thinking about you and your entrepreneurial journey beyond yourself and your team? That's the key. And a single conversation with one such person can change your destiny. So this partnership we have with Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center and Mentor Cloud is to really facilitate those conversations. So all the entrepreneurs listening today or later on the recording, have conversations. We have amazing mentors that we are regularly adding to the platform who have been curated, and they're all anxious to share their, not only step 1 and 3, like Jason said, ask them about their step 2, how they overcame struggles, and so that your entrepreneurial venture, can be in their mind. They can open a new door for you. They can introduce to a new customer or a new investor. Because as entrepreneurs, and I can tell you from my own experience, I've had those situations, very low bank balance, investors and customers consistently saying, no, it won't work. Ravi, you should do something else. But the only people who will actually say no, but and offer advice, offer their guidance from their own experience are the mentors. So entrepreneurs, find those mentors who will, who will be your cheerleaders, and you join the movement. And you can be a mentor as well, because anyone, and I define, being a mentor is nothing more than being a good human being, because you're sharing your stories, you're sharing the experience that you have been through to help another individual. And I can guarantee you, each one of us has a gold of wisdom that can empower a billion people. That's what I call wisdom asymmetry. It exists, so all of us can be mentors for somebody else. It could be a high school student, it could be a, an entrepreneur, or or even an executive. So never underestimate the wisdom that you have locked in your head, that could actually be a game changer for somebody else. So I welcome you all to the Mentor Makers movement. This has been a fantastic partnership. We have big goals to achieve 1 million mentoring hours, and it's all free. So take advantage of this opportunity. And in December, we're actually doing a Mentor Maker live event. We're actually bringing mentors and entrepreneurs together, using Remo, a virtual meeting tool, so that you can actually experience mentorship live. You'll get to meet 2 to 3 mentors, discuss your entrepreneurial journeys, and our wish for you is that you get a breakthrough moment, a breakthrough aha moment, or a new idea as you're thinking about expanding your business in 2021. So sign up for the Breakthrough Cafe on December 14th morning, which is a Monday. And I wish you all the very best. And being an entrepreneur is tough, but when you surround yourself with your own personal board of mentors, other people to cheer with you, then it can be the most amazing experience you will ever have in your life. So thank you, Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, for this wonderful partnership. And we at Mentor Cloud are really honored to be working with you on this game-changing moment the world most needs right now. Thank you.
Dr. Ravi, I can say we are immensely grateful and excited to be hosting this movement with you. Thank you so much. And Dr. Ravi, I would love to hand it to you to introduce our next VIP guest.
Excuse me. All right. So now I have am I inviting Wendy Diamond and Anna Ewing?
Absolutely. Please do.
All right. So I have the unique privilege to introduce to you the next conversationists, Wendy and Anna. Wendy is the CEO and founder of Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization, WEDO, hashtag Choose Women, a non-governmental volunteer organization and a global initiative celebrated in 144 countries and universities and colleges worldwide, with the mission to empower women in business and alleviate poverty. She is an internationally recognized and renowned social entrepreneur, impact investor, humanitarian, best selling author, TV personality, and most importantly, a do gooder. Wendy is an investor and advisor in social impact, disruptive technologies, and women led businesses. She has authored 10 widely celebrated books. She has garnered 3 Guinness World Records and has appeared in media outlets including Oprah,
He's reading. Oh, wow.
the New York Times, and Forbes. She's also been featured keynote speaker at the United Nations, Davos, and Harvard University. Joining her is Anna Ewing. She's a board member and technology leader and a former CIO of Nasdaq. She is a strong advocate of advancing women and girls through investing in women entrepreneurs and encouraging STEM education and careers for girls. Anna is currently an investor at Astia Angels, a member of the Board of Trustees at the New York Hall of Science, and a board member at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. Anna is also on the board of FinanceWare and Orchid Insurance, where she provides guidance on digital transformation and solutions. Without much delay, I welcome Wendy and Anna to share with us their insights, and we're looking forward to yet another highly energetic, charged up, insightful conversation. Over to you, Wendy and Anna.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Ravi. Thanks for your leadership in mentoring and entrepreneurship. and some of the wise words you shared with us today. And also, thank you for the work you're doing with the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center on the mentor makers movement. It's a really exciting opportunity for participants, mentors, mentees. I think we're all both at times in our careers. So thanks for that partnership. Wendy, do I see you?
Am I here?
There you are.
Yay!
Live.
Thank you
What
so
an
much.
honor.
Thank you,
What
Robbie.
an
Thank you,
honor.
Maria, everyone here. Thank you, Anna. Let's do it.
Wendy, you're a rock star. Let me start with that.
Oh, you're so not really.
I mean, what an honor to celebrate Women's Entrepreneurial Ship Day with you today here during Global Entrepreneurship Week at the Nasdaq Center. Your journey as a woman and founder is amazing and immensely interesting. And we will talk about Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization, but let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the beginning of your journey. How did you begin as a woman founder? What inspired you to take the leap?
Okay, so I mean, I have like, it's funny, somehow I've been able to do this in a 2-minute thing and you're gonna be like, how did you do it? I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. With my father, he was an entrepreneur and I used to go with him and he gave me opportunities, whether it was selling pencils in school or gum and getting in trouble and being put away because I would sell gum for like 5 cents each and things like that. So as I was a young kid, I always kind of knew how to create my own little business, right? And growing up, I had some family issues. And so I, didn't do very well in high school dealing with that. And so I had really, really bad grades. And I barely could get into college. And my aunt from San Francisco, who was my savior in life and my mentor and my greatest, inspiration, said, you really have to go to college. And she sent me to a school in Boston that was an old finishing school turned 4-year liberal arts school for women, 300 women. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing here, right? And that's what opened up my eyes to the world. Because, growing up in a little town of 2,500 people in Ohio, I was kind of in a closed little group, right? And so that led me to opening up my life and going to school with people from Morocco and Indonesia and et cetera. That led me to moving to Turkey. That led me to Russia, which I started my first business after sending out 300 resumes and nobody offered me a job after college. And that was when I realized like, wow, I'm going to have to figure out my own journey. Right. And that's when I started my first business in Russia, where I brought Valentino, Ungaro, Jean Francofray, all the GFT manufactured labels, and I would buy all the old stock at 22 years old that they didn't want to flood their existing markets. And I would then ship it to Russia, SGS inspected 20-foot containers. And I did pretty well at a young age, right? Not knowing anything about the industries, but really researching and diving in. That led me to go, after that, that led me to go to New York. And you can take a girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl. I ended up volunteering for the Coalition for the Homeless, feeding 1,000 people a week, realizing how grateful I felt every day after doing that. That led me to doing 2 cookbooks, raising $500,000 for the homeless, being on Oprah and Howard Stern. That led me to adopt a dog and cat. That led me to creating the first ever media company for animal rescue, because at the time when I launched Animal Fair Media, nobody was talking about adoption or rescue. So I decided to create a media company to simplify the message. You could adopt any breed, any size, and bring celebrities and pop culture to the animal rescue world. And then I did, throughout that journey, I did 10 books, 5 TV shows, 3 Guinness World Records. I created the term Yappy Hour. I brought animal rescue to the forefront of media. That's what led me now to creating Women's Entrepreneurship Day in 2013, after learning that there were 250 million girls living in poverty and ending up in vacation in Honduras, not realizing it was the murder capital of the world. And that's what I learned. Like in 2013, nobody was really talking about women in business, right? Or women entrepreneurs. But I knew by creating a day in the world, that we could create this movement that we're being celebrated today in 144 countries around the world.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's a lot of story in a few minutes. And I can dive into any one of those. I mean, what a fascinating journey. And clearly one that was diverse and sounds like in some cases opportunistic and others planned, which is, interesting.
Actually, none of it was planned. None of it was planned. Everything I've done in my life, and that's why I think it's really important for people to realize, right? is the greatest gift that you could give yourself is resiliency, and being able to just, have no fear. And what's the worst that could happen? No. And, if you have a dream and if you want to do something, that you really need to do it, right? And say yes, and allow the 100 no's, right? And so everything I did had a purpose, whether it was helping the 12 million animals euthanized a year. When I launched Animal Fair, that number's now down to 2 million because of the efforts of creating a simplified movement and bringing celebrities in pop culture. Because at the time when I launched, nobody was even talking about rescue or adoption. It was all dog show breeders, right? And the same thing with, homeless people. Nobody wanted to talk about homeless people, but I brought celebrities and their favorite recipes, and I did these cookbooks that got me on Howard Stern and Oprah that brought awareness towards, the issues that we're dealing with homeless at that time, even worse now with COVID and everything. So everything I've done has actually been really, high integrity. It had a purpose. And that's what drove me through all the ups and downs in a roller coaster as an entrepreneur.
So if I could just, translate that into, some lessons learned for our audience, who are many entrepreneurs at different stages of their journey. How would you talk about how would you summarize that mindset that founders need to adopt to be successful?
I think that, the most important thing, as a founder, and some, like for me, like even to this day, like I'm starting a new business, so I'm dealing with all the ups and downs as an entrepreneur, right? And I think it's just, the key for me is, when I think about it, is to be able to control your mind. Right? We all forget the fact that we can change our mind in a second, right? The way we think. We can decide when we wake up in the morning that whether we're happy or sad, or whether this is the greatest day or this isn't the greatest day. And that's the same thing when you're creating a business, right? To have that understanding that you're going to, that you can do it, that you will do it, and that you're going to get 1,000 no's. And then for every 1,000 no's, you're going to get one great yes. Right. And if you have that kind of mindset, it keeps you going through that time, but always having a purpose with whatever you're doing. Whether, you're opening up a new restaurant, tying that into something, whether it's helping people, have food on their table that are maybe less, fortunate, it's always having some type of purpose underneath it that drives you to keep going.
So, going back to Women's Entrepreneurship Day, and also Choose Women, which is part of that initiative. So one may ask, I don't know who, but one may ask, why do we need this? And can you share some stats, which are pretty incredible, behind the reasons?
Well, number one, if you think about it, women founders only get 2% of venture funding. 2%. How ridiculous is that, right? And, look at when you think about public companies and women on boards, Anna, you're a perfect example, right? Is that, when women in leadership positions in public companies are 6% more profitable. Clearly it shows in the world that, like, if we invest in women, we are going to uplift economies, right? And that goes back to, why I founded Women's Entrepreneurship Day. I founded Women's Entrepreneurship Day because I ended up in Honduras on vacation, not realizing it was the murder capital of the world, right? And I ended up volunteering for an organization called Adelante, and they provide microloans to poor women to start their own businesses. And there was this one woman, she was 73 years old. She had 3 little kids. I'm like, how on earth did you have these 3 little kids at 73, right? They were like 5 and 6. And I was like, and she said, like her daughter passed away. And the husband ran off, and she took responsibility for these grandchildren. And Adelante gave her $100 microloan, and she was able to open up her own business. She opened up the window in her 1-room hut with a dirt floor, and she started selling Cokes and toothpaste. And that's what enabled her to earn enough money, $1 a month, for these children in that community to go to attend school, be educated, right? And so when you look at the world and you look at the stats, these women are paying these loans back at a 98% rate of return. These are true stats, by the way. 90% of that money goes to educate their children and provide for their families, which is uplifting the entire communities, right? So when you think about, those statistics, how can we not invest in women? We're not going to go into the stats of men. Just kidding. You know what I mean? But like, you know, let me just tell you, the women's stats are really high. And this is why we just have to look at why, you know, that we can really invest. If we're going to make this world a better place, and we're going to change the world, and we're going to have gender equality, we need to invest in women. You know, we're a capitalist society, giving a hand up, not a handout, right? And enabling opportunities for women.
And I can certainly, you know, attest to everything you're saying. And as an angel investor myself, focusing on women entrepreneurs, you know, the talent is there, the ideas are there, the ROI is there, and it's so often a case of getting capital, you know, access to capital and networks. So I couldn't agree with you more. And you know, from a purely business perspective, it's a great ROI.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that, you know, and that's, you know, and like what we're doing, you know, we're celebrated in Africa and Mongolia and all over the world today. Right. But, you know, Women's Entrepreneurship Day is every day. You know, every day we should be supporting, empowering, and celebrating women entrepreneurs and bringing awareness towards the most important, like in history, you know, you look at the, you know, Hedy Lamarr, she's, you know, she created the computer, and like 90% of the world doesn't even know her. Right. But we all know Mark Zuckerberg, right? We all know Bill Gates, right? And it's about like bringing awareness to all these incredible women out there that you might not have ever heard of, that are really creating and doing and helping this world in a big way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. But you know, you've built more than one global advocacy campaign from everything you've done from scratch. So share with us now, and clearly you've been successful, but I'm sure there's been.
You know, people always say like, "Oh, you're so successful." I'm like, you know what? I mean, it's scrappy.
But you are.
Well, I mean, you know, listen, I think, you know, it's like, it's so good. Like, I love, like, because I've never done anything for money. I've always done everything for purpose, you know, and I've always done things, you know, when I created Animal Fair, I was helping local animal rescue, right? Because the local groups have no money, they have no PR, right? And the big groups have all the marketing arms and are sending everybody around the world, and people are donating to the big groups thinking it's their local group. And, you know, so it was always about, you know, how, you know, the purpose of it, right? And I think, you know, when people are starting their own businesses, right, it's so important to just know it's tough, you know, and it's, for me, I love it, being scrappy and being able to do it, and just having real integrity in everything you're doing is to me like what drives me and keeps me excited, right?
Yeah, but on that note, can you share with us some of the biggest challenges that you have faced as a woman entrepreneur and founder, and also the role of networking in advocating your global, you know, campaigns?
Oh, absolutely. So, you know, right now, I will go into, I am an impact investor. I find, you know, impactful, anything that's going to make this world a positive place. And I invest in women and some of the most greatest projects, right? And so one of the things that, you know, is important, I think, when you're looking at, you know, the world is, I mean, to me, is about what is the impact we're having, you know, whatever you're creating, it's important today, because I think everybody recognizes the things that are happening in this world, whether it's climate change or, you know, agriculture and the farmers and the whole thing. So the thing that I clearly, you know, when I get into, and like the challenges I have, are about bringing, you know, just to get people engaged, right? Because, you know, at a young age, I come from Ohio, right? So I've always like been nice and happy, you know, and that's just the way we are in Ohio. Yay, Ohio, if anyone's from there. And, you know, and now I live in New York City, and it's tough, right? But I always say to people, you know, even with Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization, right? I started this foundation. Why? Because, you know, in history, like, you know, if you look in history now, there's a lot of celebrities that are saying they created the animal rescue movement and they did all this stuff, you know, they forget to remind people of how they got involved, right? Or who really inspired them, or who was the person, right? And that's, and I look at like one of the co-founders of Cisco. Everybody knows Cisco, one of the biggest companies in the world. I've spoken to so many people that work at Cisco, and they don't even know it was co-founded by a woman, right? Sandy Lerner. Right. And that, you know, this is what this is about celebrating that. So, you know, challenges are that, you know, it's about, you know, a lot of the stuff that I've created in this world has been appropriated. Right. But how do you keep going is by having a great legal team. right? And how do you, deal with all these challenges? And I think, for me, it's, about surrounding yourself by the greatest team and about the people around you and having that little tribe that's supporting you and that, has your back. And network, I mean, I am still close with everyone I went to high school with and kindergarten with, and everybody I went to college with, and everybody I've worked with in the world, because I've always make a point to help everyone. Everyone can help everyone. Everybody's an expert at something. Everyone might be a novice at something, but you can contribute to everybody's life, right? And that was how I was able to create Women's Entrepreneurship Day. I went around the world to everybody I knew that I went to college with that was from Indonesia or Turkey or that I worked with, or, whatever it was in my career. I went to everybody and I said, who in your country is the greatest person to represent our movement, to bring governments, business leaders, civil society together to collaborate to find solutions to uplift women in business? And that's how we are now celebrating 144 countries. We have 300 unbelievable ambassadors we're volunteer movement. I do this all year round for free. And I can't tell you how much I've gotten back. I feel so lucky. Because of just my network of what they've done. And, today we're going to be raising enough money for 1,000 impoverished women to receive microloans to start their own businesses. Because the whole day of what Women's Entrepreneurship Day is a ground up approach. So we need to, create this to make everybody understand why it's so important to empower women in business. And the stats for those microloans are the key factor to the world, right? That we should all recognize by
Right.
And so I think that, about your network is the most important thing. And that's how, and like, I look at, like, when I get involved with companies and I'm investing in companies, I don't just invest and give money. I am with them on the journey, so whether it's Producers Market that's empowering farmers around the world. I brought the United Nations Environmental Program in the government of India, and we're now, funding, and we're putting on our platform 6 million women in India in the state of Andhra Pradesh, right? That share a mobile phone because they can't even afford a mobile phone. So they have these self-help groups of 11 women, right? And they share that, each have a hectare of land. And going on our platform now, that's going to enable them now to earn almost double the money that they were making $1 a day, and now they're going to earn more money. So everything I do is got a clear impact. So because for me, I feel lucky that, I've had this up and journey and stuff like that I'm able to now really see the importance of, giving back, and to be able to do that in a way that's going to help the world. And I think that, that keeps me going every day.
Right, that's great. And you used the word tribe, which I thought was a really great way to describe that network and those people that have your back. And as you know, the theme of what we've been talking about here is mentorship and how important mentorship is. Can you share with us who has been a mentor to you in your incredible journey?
Yeah, it's been interesting, right? Like, as we talk about mentorship, right? And we're like, oh, mentor. Well, I really didn't have one. And I didn't know how to ask for one, right? And I never worked at a corporation where they had a mentorship program, right? I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. And, as a woman entrepreneur, and as somebody who's, happy and blah, 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 everyone's always like, oh, she doesn't need help, right? And I think it's also that thing where, you felt like asking for help was a sign of weakness, right? Mm-hmm. And that, so I have to be honest with you, I think my friends, I wouldn't call them mentors, but they were my cheerleaders, right? And I think today, right, as I look at it, it was my aunt, who gave me that step up, at a time when I had 2 mentally unhealthy parents, right? And she was the one who came in and sent me to college, and I think, so I look back and I think to myself, we don't have to define a mentor. A mentor might, what I really believe is a mentor is somebody who really is cheering you on and guiding you, and it might not be in a formal way as a corporation might have those programs, right? But is somebody that, is literally listening to you and guiding you on that journey.
That's great. And that's certainly in line with what we're trying to do with the Mentor Maker movement here at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. It's about sharing ideas. It's about sharing experiences, and it's navigating through challenges together. So that is so great to hear you reinforce that. So I wish we could keep talking, but I have one last question for you. You have been such a visionary and leader on women's entrepreneurship. As you look around the corner, what do you see as the future of women's entrepreneurship?
I think it's amazing, right? Because think about it today. Like we're here today at the Nasdaq, woo! And with you, Anna, like you're so successful and you're such a powerhouse. It's like I think it's this kind of conversations, and I think it's about governments. I'm proud to say that the Congress and Governor Cuomo and Mayor Garcetti and everybody's proclaiming Women's Entrepreneurship Day as an official day in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're setting up programs to fund women entrepreneurs. And, you never see more funds launching, for women and et cetera. And today, we're celebrating with our foundation. We have a big event where we've got, some of the people that are, $180 million fund to invest in women, which is Rethink Impact, and all these incredible people that are coming together. And I think more and more as we enable women to have that, to celebrate women and to empower women and support women, clearly what that I thought in 2013, if we could keep this conversation going every day, we could change the world. Because as you see in the stats, what I went through, women are investing in their children, they're investing in the families, they're uplifting the entire communities. And if we can do this, we can alleviate poverty. I mean, like I mentioned, this was all founded upon the 250 million girls living in poverty. And if we, kind of remind ourselves, especially in this time with the pandemic, that there's no better time now than to uplift women. They've been the hardest hit. If they've been more hit, minorities and women, have been the hardest hit in this pandemic.
Right. Well, Wendy, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you and hear your story and your insights. And it's a real honor that you joined us today on Women's Entrepreneurship Day.
Thank you for like
some of your time, And I wish you all the best in your journey, and I'll be right there cheering you on.
Okay, thank you so much. Grateful.
Thank you, Wendy. Thanks, Maria. Back to you.
Absolutely. Wendy and Anna, thank you so much for joining us. We've had such an incredible conversation today. We're so grateful. And for everyone still listening, please take a moment and let us know what you thought about this conversation. Let us know exactly what you would like to learn from us and from Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center in the future. Fill out the survey. It takes 2 to 3 minutes to do. We would love for all of these speakers and for Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center to know exactly what you're looking for so we can stand up opportunities like this again in the future. Again, thank you all for joining us. We are so grateful for all of the speakers that have been with us today, sharing in this Mentor Makers movement. On behalf of Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center and everyone in attendance, we sincerely thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day, everyone.